The wait is over. September 20th, 2025 is not just another day. Tonight's moon marks the breaking point. No more waiting. No more holding back. No more being told your time will come later. That lie is finished. This moon pushes everything into motion. The energy is sharp. The pressure is real. You can feel it in your body, in your thoughts, in the way nothing feels steady. That's because the ground beneath your life is shifting. This is the line between who you were and who you are becoming. And once you step across, there's no turning back. So stay tuned. But first, like this video, subscribe and type 999 in the comments. Share it with one person who needs this message. Tonight, the moon moves into a rare event that changes the rhythm of the zodiac. It stands at a degree where Saturn brings lessons of discipline while Neptune stretches vision into wider horizons. Together, they create a crossroad where the past can no longer hold back the future. Pisces, the constellation linked to this passage, carries stories of duality. One path that clings to what is fading and another that leads toward renewal. Virgo stands opposite, demanding clarity, focus, and truth. This mix makes the night charged with choice and direction. This moon event matters because it does not pass quietly. It opens a gateway pressing life toward decisions that reveal who is ready to step forward and who is not. Right now, something in the great unfolding is moving toward a turning point. September 20th sits like a marker in the flow, a chosen moment when long-held agreements begin to resolve. This night acts like a referee, separating what belongs in the next chapter from what must be released. Soul contracts that have run their course come up for review. Commitments made before this lifetime meet their end. And what remains moves forward with new clarity. Karmic endings are not punishments. They are final notes that complete a score so a fresh one can begin. Many of the meetings, losses, and near wins that seemed stalled were actually the final work needed to close old accounts. That closure frees energy. Not as a void, but as a clean field for new work. This is a spiritual shift with practical reach. Relationships rearrange, roles change, and paths that once felt blocked begin to open with momentum. Your presence here, hearing this now, is not random. The soul chose this timing. Attendance is part of initiation. Some doors will ask for a decisive step. Some agreements will quietly end, clearing space for a focused mission. Think of this night as a checkpoint. The inner contract signs off and a clearer assignment appears. The aim is not comfort but alignment, a redirected life course that matches deeper purpose. Framed as initiation, this moment asks for steadiness and honest action. Consider what must be honored and what must be left. The collective also moves. Many will pass through similar closures, and together those shifts change the broader field. What emerges after this clearing will be leaner, more honest, and better suited to the work that follows. Take whatever small, clear steps are possible now. They are the first moves in a longer call to purpose. Many are noticing emotions running higher than usual, as if the inner world refuses to stay quiet. Tears rise without clear reason. Laughter breaks through at unexpected times, and old reactions no longer carry the same weight. What is happening is not random. It is a clearing. The moon event stirs what has been stored too long, giving permission for the heart to unburden itself. Memories surface in waves, not to haunt but to release. Encounters from the past may replay in the mind, moments once overlooked, now asking to be acknowledged. This is the soul's way of closing old chapters, of untangling threads that have kept energy tied to places it no longer belongs. What leaves makes space for stronger alignment with where life is headed. Rest can feel disrupted. Hours pass with the body awake when it should be quiet, as though the inner rhythm no longer matches the clock. This shift is part of the activation. The spirit is recalibrating, reaching for a new balance that will settle in its own time. The body may carry sudden waves of heat or chills, subtle tremors that pass quickly but leave awareness sharpened. These movements are not signs of weakness, but indicators that deeper layers are adjusting. Energy runs through in ways that cannot always be explained, but each pulse is guiding the spirit closer to its next stage. Emotional overwhelm during this passage is not a failure. It is proof that the release is working. When grief rises, it is clearing residue from old timelines. When joy surges, it is confirmation of new possibilities finding a home. Both are evidence of transformation in motion. This moon event does not isolate. Others around you are going through their own purging, their own unpredictable waves. Some may not speak about it, but the collective field carries it strongly. Knowing this softens the edge. You are not walking this path alone. Trust the clearing process. Trust that what empties now was never meant to stay. Each emotional flood, each restless night, each unexpected memory is the body and spirit collaborating to open space for what comes next. Evolution does not arrive quietly. It moves through every layer until renewal is undeniable. This moon event opens the hidden doors of the mind, bringing forward what many prefer to keep tucked away. The light is sharp, not to punish but to reveal. And September 20th, 2025 turns into a threshold where inner truths demand attention. What rises now may look like fear, self-doubt, or the return of habits once thought finished. Yet each appearance is an invitation to confront what has been shaping life from the background. Shadow work has always been described by mystics as the encounter with the unclaimed self. In traditions across the world, this stage is recognized as necessary, an initiation where the darker fragments are not denied but transformed. Anger, jealousy, or insecurity are not enemies. They are raw material waiting for alchemy. This is where emotional honesty becomes medicine. By admitting what hurts or intimidates, it loses its grip and begins to shift into strength. Karmic release intensifies during portals like this. Encounters with people from the past may suddenly resurface, or long-forgotten stories can echo through daily life. These are not accidents. They are the final unraveling of contracts signed before this lifetime, now reaching closure. The weight of these ties cannot carry into the next stage, and the moon ensures they are seen clearly enough to be let go. September 20th carries a special resonance because it binds endings with beginnings. What dissolves in the light of this night leaves behind raw space, a space meant to be filled with purpose rather than repetition. Facing the shadow clears pathways for destiny to move unhindered, and the release of karmic residue turns heaviness into guidance. By entering this night with openness, the unclaimed fragments of self become allies instead of threats. The fear that once silenced becomes fuel. The doubt that once limited becomes discernment. This is the alchemy of shadow, turning what was hidden into wisdom. What you integrate now sets the stage for a future no longer chained to unfinished contracts, but free to walk with clarity, truth, and power. Tonight, the moon hangs like a signal in the sky, announcing that a threshold has been crossed. September 20th, 2025 will not pass quietly. It asks for full participation. The ordinary pace of life begins to loosen, and a current of energy moves through every part of existence as though the soul itself is being tuned to a higher rhythm. What once seemed scattered starts to arrange itself into new order. And that ordering brings clarity sharper than words. Spiritual awakening does not arrive as a single revelation, but as a steady call to rise beyond the smallness once accepted. Ancient teachers describe this stage as a turning of the inner compass toward truth. A realignment so powerful that the old weight cannot hold. It is not about escaping what is human. It is about realizing how much more the human spirit can embody when it stands unafraid of its own magnitude. Momentum builds as layers of resistance drop away. A person who once hesitated finds themselves speaking with conviction. A path that once looked unclear suddenly shows direction. These are not coincidences but signs of energy weaving itself into coherence. The moon amplifies that process, almost insisting that no one can remain hidden from their own calling. Awakening also means responsibility. To be expanded is not only to carry lightness, but also to stand firm in truth when others falter. This night teaches that strength is not hard or cold. It is radiant, flexible, and deeply alive. It invites courage to replace hesitation and wisdom to rise where confusion once reigned. September 20th arrives as more than a date. It is a marker of transformation, a reminder that life is designed to evolve. Those who step into its current with openness will discover a harmony that extends beyond personal growth, shaping how they move through relationships, choices, and the wider world. Spiritual awakening is not a distant ideal. It is here in the body, in the heart, in the sky above. The turning point has come not as an ending but as ignition. What unfolds from here cannot be undone, and that is its gift. Every step forward carries the echo of this night, reminding that awakening is not granted, it is lived. A movement is growing that cannot be reduced to headlines or hashtags. Small groups, quiet leaders, and ordinary mornings are collecting into a single momentum that alters shared timelines. What each person does now, a choice to step forward, a refusal to repeat old motions, a simple spoken truth, threads into a larger field. The ripple you make lands on distant shores faster than anyone expected. Private changes show up as public shifts. On the 20th of September, an energetic marker will make many of those threads visible. That date is not an end in itself but a hinge. Micro-events synchronize and create openings for new coordination across minds and hearts. This is why private awakenings suddenly feel like part of something bigger. The small work you complete in solitude translates into a collective nudge. When thousands refine their attention, the combined tilt becomes measurable, not by instruments but by how life rearranges around clearer intention. Consciousness is not an abstract idea. Right now it is acting like a matrix that people enter and alter. Imagine a shared playlist where one person adds a track and others begin to hear the same tone. The playlist updates the mood of gatherings, workplaces, and neighborhoods. That is the simplest way to see how personal shifts become communal. As more people clean their focus and speak with honesty, the field remembers a different future and begins to favor it. Grid activations, whether you call them energetic nodes, meeting points of intention, or cultural inflection spots, respond to these human movements. Local events and private rituals amplify because they plug into a wider choreography. This is not mystical fluff. It's the observable effect of concentrated attention. Small acts of clarity, generosity, or courage multiply through networks and produce tangible adjustments in timing and opportunity for many. The phrase spiritual revolution fits because the change is structural rather than cosmetic. Old negotiation tactics, performative roles, and convenience-based compromises are losing traction. New priorities appear: responsibility without pretense, authority based on craft rather than title, and collaboration rooted in mutual wakefulness. These shifts do not require mass consensus to be real. They only need enough participants to tip the scales. That threshold is closer than it looks. Integration matters. When personal evolution lands into the shared field without grounding, it can feel like noise. That's why disciplined focus and honest work at the individual level are essential contributions to the collective inner clearing that turns into thoughtful action. Showing up, finishing what you started, telling necessary truths becomes a currency for the emergent timeline. People who treat this as practical work, not decoration, are the ones who accelerate what follows. This movement does not erase struggle. Conflict will arise as old arrangements resist change. Expect friction where benefit is threatened and confusion where clarity arrives too fast. Even so, those points of resistance are data, not destiny. They show where attention still clings to the past and where an honest pivot can create space for something truer. When enough people choose a clearer route, friction becomes the indicator of where to push next. Trust shifts from being a private gamble into a collective skill. When someone proves reliability by finishing, by keeping promises, by acting with consistency, others feel safer to step into risk. That trust compounds. The result is new networks of competence that move faster and with less drama. What used to require years of convincing now needs only a handful of aligned people to set a new tempo. Narratives will change. Old stories that justified scarcity, mistrust, or resignation lose their persuasive power. New stories that center purpose, stewardship, and shared clarity gain traction. Media, markets, and institutions respond when the stories have staying power. That's how slow cultural gears begin turning in favor of a more conscious future. This is not an invitation to grandstanding. Visibility without depth is short-lived. The real revolution is quieter and lasts longer. It is a shift in how promises are kept, how attention is spent, and how commitments are made. These small structural changes produce large outcomes, and the momentum they create will continue beyond any single event or headline. When the movement gains scale, the personal consequences are real and immediate. Relationships realign, careers refocus, and neighborhoods reorganize. Those effects can be disorienting, but they are also clarifying. People will see who moves with them and who does not. That sifting is part of maturation for both individuals and the broader field. The acceleration of consciousness cannot be tracked through numbers or graphs alone. It moves through the way people interact, choose, and prioritize. A spiritual revolution is underway not through slogans but through the refusal to stay bound by outdated agreements. Each individual who claims their integrity becomes a node that steadies the field for countless others. It is no longer about one voice dominating the conversation. It is about many voices strengthening a collective frequency that reshapes what is possible. The resonance of this movement stretches far beyond private awakenings. Collective timelines bend when enough people release inherited weight and live as though a new future has already arrived. This is why a clearing feels urgent. Personal transformations are not isolated. They cascade outward. A single breakthrough becomes an anchor that others unconsciously lean on, giving them courage to step into their own turning point. By the time 20th September passes, more will recognize that their courage is not only personal healing, but also a contribution to the larger transition. Planetary ascension is not an escape to somewhere else, but a deeper rooting into conscious presence here. It is the reorientation of society toward cooperation over exploitation, integrity over pretense, truth over convenience. These shifts do not arrive by decree. They spread like wildfire when small groups model what it means to live awake. Communities rewire, not because everyone suddenly agrees, but because enough individuals act as steady tuning forks for others to find coherence. The signs are already visible. Conversations carry more honesty than before. Younger generations reject stories that no longer serve them, and ordinary people are creating bridges across divides once thought permanent. These are not random sparks. They are early signals of the collective remembering its own agency. Once awareness crosses a certain threshold, systems of disconnection lose their grip because people no longer invest their energy in propping them up. This larger awakening is also physical, cultural, and deeply personal. Bodies change as energy recalibrates. Emotions surge because old debris rises before it can be cleared. Communities reorganize as trust is rebuilt. It may feel messy, but it is functional. The shaking of what no longer belongs makes space for a truer order. Spiritual evolution is not abstract here. It is visible in practical choices, daily interactions, and the ways in which cooperation is valued over division. The planetary grid, those unseen lines of energy long acknowledged in indigenous wisdom, hums differently when human intention intensifies. Rituals, meditations, and acts of kindness are not isolated gestures. They amplify through that grid and return multiplied. Each person becomes a transmitter, whether conscious of it or not. The revolution of consciousness is not about escape, but about infusion, spirit penetrating daily life until the ordinary itself becomes luminous. For many, this may be disorienting. Familiar rhythms are disrupted, loyalties are tested, and priorities reorganized without permission. But this is the exact evidence of ascension in motion. Spirituality matures when comfort is no longer the measure of truth. Discomfort acts as a doorway, not as punishment, but as a passage into a larger self. As more people cross that doorway, the shared landscape begins to change. Anchoring this transition requires consistency. Words alone will not carry the revolution. It is choices repeated in ordinary hours that stabilize the new field. Keep showing up with clarity. Keep offering kindness without performance. Keep choosing honesty over avoidance. These repeated acts crystallize into culture, and culture is what determines the strength of any collective future. The ripple you create may never be directly visible, yet it matters profoundly. Someone you may never meet will take courage from the invisible strength you generated. Another will speak their truth because your steadiness made the field safer for honesty. This is the invisible architecture of ascension. Ordinary lives weaving together into extraordinary transformation. The collective shift has already begun. It is here in the cracks of conversations, in the courage of decisions, in the refusal to keep living by yesterday's instructions. The revolution is quiet, steady, and undeniable. It is carried by each individual who chooses truth over imitation, depth over performance, and awareness over distraction. Together, those choices are lifting the field into a new octave, and the momentum is irreversible. The way forward opens through deliberate steps, not by rushing toward the horizon, but by walking with intention. Ancient traditions remind us that guidance is rarely loud. It arrives in steady rituals, in symbolic acts that train the spirit to remain balanced when the currents of change run strong. On the 20th of September, the moon carries a message that speaks not only to the collective, but also to the individual path. It asks for practices that turn knowledge into lived strength. Hermetic wisdom once taught that what is above reflects below, and what is within shapes what manifests outside. To honor this, begin with small daily actions that mirror the qualities you wish to embody. Light a candle not as decoration, but as a declaration of clarity. Wash your hands slowly at dawn, imagining all stagnant energy dissolving into the water. These acts become living symbols, turning ordinary gestures into anchors for transformation. From Vedic streams of knowledge comes the reminder that sound carries power. The repetition of a mantra, even a simple one, reshapes the inner world. Choose a word or phrase that directs your mind toward openness and strength. Speak it as the sun rises and again before sleep. This rhythm steadies the mind much like a drum beat steadies dancers around a fire, each step aligning body and spirit with unseen order. Indigenous traditions have long taught that offerings keep harmony alive. Place a handful of grains, a piece of fruit, or even clean water in nature as an act of gratitude. Such gestures remind the heart that giving sustains receiving, and that nothing exists in isolation. In this way, personal healing expands outward, strengthening the invisible threads that tie individuals to one another and to the land beneath their steps. Shadow work often stirs discomfort, yet traditions across the world have pointed to the power of naming what is hidden. Take a quiet hour to write what weighs heavy within you, then bury the paper or let the wind carry it away. This is not an escape, but a way of closing the chapter with intention. The act itself frees energy once locked in silence, making space for new directions to emerge. Movement 2 is medicine. Walk barefoot on soil, stone, or grass to discharge what lingers and invite stability back into your body. Each step reaffirms connection to the ground, reminding you that strength rises from contact with the living world. In Hermetic terms, it unites the dense and the subtle. In Vedic language, it awakens prana to circulate freely. The language differs, yet the wisdom is the same. Energy must flow, not stagnate. This is a moment to simplify rather than to complicate. Strip back excess distractions, reduce noise where possible, and choose practices that can be maintained consistently. What matters is not grand gestures, but steady devotion. In this steadiness, transformation finds fertile soil. The moon's signal is clear. The preparation you make now will carry forward long after the night passes. The guidance continues not with new inventions, but with deeper application of what has already been placed before you. The moon of the 20th of September is less a sudden spark, and more a reminder that the light you seek outside has always been stored within. Every tradition across time agrees. Discipline shapes destiny. Without rhythm, the spirit scatters. With rhythm, it gathers and grows strong. From the Hermetic path comes the principle of mental clarity. Guard the thoughts you repeat, for they become the scaffolding of your future. If doubts arise, do not wrestle them endlessly. Instead, redirect your attention toward images of expansion. Envision the version of yourself that acts with trust, speaks with truth, and walks without hesitation. This is not fantasy. It is spiritual rehearsal, a way of training the mind to prepare for what will soon be lived in waking hours. Vedic practices highlight the breath of the cosmos moving through sound, but they also emphasize discipline through time. Mark the turning of the day with a small practice at sunrise and sunset. Whether it is silence, chanting, or simply gazing at the changing light, this anchors you into cosmic rhythm. You are no longer drifting through hours. You are participating in a sacred clock that aligns body and spirit with celestial order. From indigenous wisdom, we inherit the act of listening to the land. Walk where the trees stand, sit where water moves, and let the natural world speak without words. Answers often rise not from thought but from the stillness of observation. This way of listening is not passive. It is active receptivity, a training of attention that opens you to guidance written into the natural world. When the shadow returns, as it will, do not retreat. Name what rises, acknowledge it, and then transform it through ritual. Speak your fear into the flame of a candle. Release your anger into moving water, or dance your confusion into the ground. Collective awakening is not carried only by the grand events in the stars. It is sustained by consistent individuals who choose to embody the change. One person committed to clarity radiates into families, communities, and wider fields of connection. Your practices, though simple, are not small. As the moon wanes, carry forward these practices not as burdens but as companions. Choose what resonates and let it weave into your daily rhythm. What begins as action soon becomes character. What becomes character soon becomes destiny. This is how transformation solidifies, through repeated choice, through ordinary moments charged with extraordinary intention. The portal marked by the 20th of September will pass, but the seeds planted through your devotion will continue to grow. Walk with trust, act with rhythm, and know that your path has been chosen for this very hour. The call has already been answered. Now it is about living it fully. The final edge of this message carries both a promise and a challenge. The moon event of 20th September has not passed quietly. It has carved a threshold that separates hesitation from awakening. The weight of the past no longer holds the same authority. What once confined you has already begun to loosen. A door is open, and the invitation is to walk through without delay. Every tradition speaks of moments where courage matters more than certainty. This is such a moment. The changes unfolding are not meant to confuse, but to awaken a deeper clarity, already waiting within you. The choice is not between loss and gain, but between silence and voice, between staying hidden and stepping forward as the version of yourself you always knew was possible. Carry this blessing as a personal declaration. 666. Type these words in the comments to anchor it and share this video with someone standing on the edge of their own awakening, because no one was meant to travel this turning point alone. Together, the shift is magnified. Together, the future begins.